My name is Susan Madacsi. I'm an artist and a blacksmith. I live in Boise, Idaho, and my studio practice is in Garden City. I was approached by a local architectural firm that was hired as art consultants for this building on the campus of this company. They selected a handful of local artists to present their work. And I talked a lot about my experience working on a larger scale, and one of the women on the panel started looking around in this big atrium space of this building. She just kind of looked up and pointed, and she's like, well, what about that space? Do you think you could do something up there? And I was, of course, was like, certainly, I would love to. Most of my work is all over the country, and so it was pretty cool to be commissioned by a company that grew up here, and like I grew up here, and it was just kind of, it was neat, nice. During one of the kind of collaborative brainstorming meetings, one of the women on the investors board suggested that I look into this project to restore a channel within the Boise River. I found some maps that were aerial views of that part of the river, and I used that as my substrate for the design. This channel restoration was a pet project for the company, and they feel it's important to invest in the environment, and why not do it in your own community? It's a really beautifully responsible thing to do. Beyond coming up with the design and doing research, I have to actually make the work. And so that begins with forging the medallions, circles of all varying sizes. Any respectable blacksmith still has an anvil and a hammer, but I don't forge medallions, and I never have on the anvil by hand. When I bought the power hammer, I started exploring that tool, just experimenting. You work, and then you see something happen, and then you just kind of go, oh, well, what if I tried this? That's the artistry of invention, and you just try stuff until you get the results you want. I like this part a lot. It's very kind of cathartic, and it's relaxing, and it's like the least stressful part of the whole thing. It's, meditative and intuitive, and just kind of, it's playful. It's the playful part of it. It's sort of like an amoeba. So it first starts out kind of structural, and then it's sort of, things have to migrate and get scooched around and stuff and tucked under. So there's like all these multiple layers. I want the viewer's eye to kind of like keep searching, instead of landing on one spot. I want them to keep the viewer's eye kind of wandering through the piece, like pointillism, sort of your eyes still kind of like, popping around the piece. It'll never be clean. I grew up in Boise, and I moved when I was in my 20s after I graduated from Boise State, and then I went to Texas and found blacksmithing, and I ended up moving to the East Coast and creating a whole career and studio practice based on what I learned in Texas. Every place I went kind of imparted something new knowledge to build on, and new ways of thinking about how I could be an artist and have like a functional studio. It's based on the river and the restoration, so I have like kind of a gradient going on, but with color blocks of circles. I started out thinking about the shoreline, so you've got kind of more, natural colors of of the sand and whatnot that's in the river. And then I, decided to do green after that. So then there's like a layer of green, and then above that is blue, which is kind of like a reference to the water. I was just looking at my contract, and it's been almost a whole year since the contract was signed. There was a lot of challenges because it was COVID, and you just like everybody else, just discovering issues with supply chain stuff and rearranging what I was doing in the studio according to the materials and supplies I was able to get in and work with and stuff. I don't know. I don't have kids, but if I did and somebody was going off to college, it feels like an empty nester. This artwork was inspired by this environmental project that Micron was involved in with the city of Boise. And it's created a new habitat for fish, birds, recreation, and education. And the artwork is an extension of letting people know what they do in the community. While we were installing, there were people coming and going, and they would turn their head and look at the piece, and they'd slow down. That's the thing about art, putting it in a public space like that. It's kind of a surprise to them. They come into this space, and it affects them. And they didn't even know that was going to happen. It's cool.